I was sitting on the sidewalk's corner, like I usually do, holding a cardboard sign with large capital letters. Letters veteran need help, but no one looked. Everyone turned their heads away as if I didn't exist. I was used to a few minutes past. And then someone stopped. I saw their shoes first, polished leather, designer suit. I knew the type. These kind of men usually walked past me without a second glance, but this man, he stopped. I lifted my head, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Standing before me was the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He stared at me for a few seconds, his famous furrowed brow deep in thought as he read my sign. Then he leaned in and asked in a calm but firm voice, "Are you a soldier?" My throat tightened. I swallowed hard. I used to be. He sat down beside me. The people around us were frozen in shock, staring. But he didn't care. "Tell me your story." He said, "How did you end up here?" And just like that, I began to speak. I will never forget the moment I got hit. The battlefield was pure chaos. Everything was burning, gunfire. Deaf in my ears, enemy bullets rained down on us like an unstoppable storm. As a commanding officer, I was leading my men, keeping control. Everything was going according to plan until a moment. It was a sudden explosion, ripped through the air. Scream echoed from my right. One of my soldiers, I can't remember his name, but I will always remember his legs were entirely gone. His eyes were on the ground, and he was staring at me helplessly before everything went black and I hit hard. My world blurring, my ears ringing, and everything moving slowly. I felt anguish, but oddly numb, as I looked down at my leg and chest, where blood was streaming from a deep gash. My comrades in arms were lying dead next to me. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. I thought they were going to abandon me here, but instead I heard voices. My soldiers carry me, their cries muffled but desperate. "We're not losing, Commander." I tried to raise my hands, but they wouldn't move, so I closed my eyes, and then I woke up in a hospital with a bright white ceiling. My vision was blurry, and then a nurse's face appeared. "You made it," she said softly, "but we couldn't save your left leg." As a lump formed in my throat, there were several people waving flags at the airport. There were parades, speeches, smiling faces, and loud applause, but when nightfall arrived, nobody could stop the screams in my brain. Every night, the conflict returned to me. Strangers shook my hand and pinned medals on my chest. The blasts and the cries of my dying brothers. One by one, the fight never finished. Instead, it simply migrated inside of me, hidden from view. I stopped sleeping, and each time I closed my eyes, I found myself back on the battlefield, experiencing it repeatedly. My wife made an effort to comprehend why my kids clung to me, but I was in another place. I was unable to feel anything. One evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a coffee mug in my hands when I squeezed it so hard that the glass broke in my hands and my palm bled, but I was oblivious to the pain. My wife came running towards me, her eyes full of fear, whispering, "What's wrong with you?" I tried to divert my attention, but the war followed me everywhere. A few drinks at first helped me fall asleep and escape for a short while, but soon they weren't enough. Every morning I told myself, "Not today. I won't drink today," but every night I found myself drowning in another bottle of alcohol. I could forget drunk. I could numb the pain drunk. I could stop feeling drunk. I became an angry man. A sudden noise, a passing shadow, a certain smell. Everything pulled me back into that nightmare. Arguments with my wife grew frequent, and my kids stopped understanding who I was. I never touched them, but something was missing in my eyes. One day, my wife stood in front of me, staring at me with tears flowing down her face. "We need you to wake up and be the father your kids deserve." But I had already left. Work had turned into another battlefield in the military, where I was accustomed to order and discipline. But in civilian life, things were different. I became disrespectful of my bosses, who were higher up in the chain of command, and I drank until I passed out. When I got home, my kids ran to their rooms, and my wife had a suitcase packed. She said in a trembling voice, "We can't live like this. Get help or you lose us." I was drunk. I barely understood what she was saying, but I saw the emptiness in her eyes. I wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. The door closed behind them, and just like that, I was truly alone. A week later, I was evicted from my apartment. I was once a major leading hundreds of soldiers, but now no one wanted me. With only a few dollars left in my pocket, I sat down on a park bench. I held my service medal in my hand. It was given to me when I was discharged, silver, still shiny, but Meaningless now, I stared at it, my fingers tracing the edges. This metal doesn't give me a home, I whisper with trembling hands. I found a piece of cardboard and a marker. I wrote veteran need help, and I sat on a street corner. At first, I looked at people hoping someone would stop, hoping someone would notice me, but no one did they walk past pretending I didn't exist. I had fought for my country, and now I was nothing to no one. Trump listened. Intently, he was really listening. Then he took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes. No veteran should be left on the streets, he said. He pulled out his phone, dialed a few numbers. This man is getting a place to stay. I was in disbelief and didn't fully comprehend what was happening, but something inside of me gave me hope for a while. We sat in silence while people passed by, their eyes full of curiosity, but he didn't walk away or dismiss me with polite good luck. Instead, he was looking for a genuine solution. When he ended his call, he turned to face me and said, "This is just the beginning." I looked into his eyes and realized for the first time in a long time that someone had actually seen me. He said, "I'm not just giving you a bed to sleep in. I'm giving you a chance to get your life back. But you have to want it at that moment." I knew I was being given a chance, but what I did with it was entirely up to me. That night, for the first time in years, I slept in a warm bed. I was taken to a rehabilitation center where I received psychological counseling. I battled to overcome my alcohol addiction. It wasn't easy, but I knew how to fight, and this time I was fighting for myself. One day, a man from Trump's team showed up, and I was shocked to learn that the president had set up a job for me. What kind of job? A veteran support program that will help soldiers like you return to civilian life. I hesitated to help others, but then I realized that no one could understand our struggles better than one of us. This wasn't just a job, it was my new mission. Even now, when I wake up, I'm not alone. I've taken back my life. I'm trying to mend my relationship with my family, and most importantly, I'm helping others. I was a man who was lost on the streets, completely forgotten and drowning in alcohol, but one person believed in me. Sometimes I wonder if Trump's presence that day was a coincidence or if fate was at play, but I do know that second chances exist in life, and I found mine.